Before we get started on this film that's directed by Martin Scorsese that's in the theaters right now, please do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button right at the bottom. Right. I'm going to say that this movie is not my favorite Martin Scorsese film. This is not my favorite performance from Leonardo DiCaprio.
The Osage in Oklahoma, they run this town because they have access to all the oil. Now, it's not unusual that the Native Americans ended up on a place with oil, but what is interesting and unusual about the Osage is that they were able to hold on to the land and hold on to the money. And the white people, they were like, okay, I guess we could start another genocide. And this is where Robert De Niro's character comes in. We could cheat these Native American people out of their money. So Robert De Niro positions himself as like a kind, old, grandfatherly type guy who's only looking out for your well-being. Meanwhile, he's actually taking out insurance claims on your house, health insurance claims on other Native Americans. But you know, you can't make any money from health insurance unless that person is dead. Okay. Strangely, this movie is about love. And what does Leonardo DiCaprio's character love the most? His wife or that money? Robert De Niro, he's got this whole plan where the white people will marry into the families of these Native Americans, and then all the money will flow to their families after, you know, the Native Americans mysteriously die. But Leonardo DiCaprio, he wasn't privy to that until after he fell in love with his soon future wife, Molly. So he, unlike a lot of the other white people, was genuinely in love with his wife, which puts him in quite a bind because Robert De Niro, his uncle, is like, okay, so you need to make sure there is no one who's going to have claim over that money or something unfortunate to happen to your wife. Another interesting thing about the film is Leonardo DiCaprio's character is dumb, right? The movie starts off early on. He says, I can read, but then we hear him reading out loud and he's close to illiterate. But throughout the film, he seems to, you know, get a little more book smart. He even learns the Osage language. And the conflict in the film is this tug of war. What does he love the most? The money, represented by Robert De Niro's character, or his wife, represented by Lily Gladstone's character? And I agree with you. That is an interesting idea. And it sounds like a fantastic book, which this movie is based off a book. Yes. But is that really a 3-hour film? You know what I'm saying? Like,
hell yeah. That's what I'm saying. You know? Now, to me, I feel like it didn't drag along.
Nope, it didn't.
You know, the pacing was good.
I think it was a boring film, but in the hands of a master filmmaker.
Oh boy!
So what ends up happening is, like you said, you're never bored. Bizarrely, for a movie this long, I think this thing's like 3.5 hours. For a movie this long, it never drags. But it also never really picks up the pace either, right? It kind of has a very steady pace. Technically, the movie is beautiful. It is gorgeous. The movie is completely masterful in its storytelling capabilities. I just think this story is dull. I struggled with how I felt about it afterwards, because I want to say all the greatest things about Martin Scorsese, but I gotta say, like, I don't think having a 3.5-hour movie is particularly respectful of your audience's time.
Now, Robert De Niro acting as the bad guy was great because, you know, he lured you in with this comfort, like for real, like he's your grandpa. He cares and stuff about. He goes up to the Osage people and he's like in the huddle with the chiefs and them. And when
speaking their language.
Speaking their language. And when all the murders and stuff is happening, he's like, I will personally take this to Washington and see about these murders. And you're like, no, you won't, because you the person who's orchestrating this shit. Lily Gladstone is the second strongest character in this film for me. She is responsible for taking care of her mother. She is responsible for taking care of her sisters.
Molly, the main character's wife, is the responsible sister. And they're all kind of surprised to see her marry this white guy. And they're like, you know, he's trying to take your money. And Molly's like, yeah, I know the white people's game. We all know. But I think this guy is not he's too stupid. I don't think he's into this. I don't think this is his thing. I think he actually is in love with me, and I think I'm in love with him too. And so that is also another big part of the film. It's like, is Leonardo DiCaprio actually in love, or is he playing some sort of a game? Martin Scorsese is often accused of making the same movie over and over again, these crime movies, you know? And there is a criminal element, a big criminal element to this town, to this film. He always brings an interesting twist, an interesting turn to each of his films. And that happens here. I'm just not sure if that justifies this runtime. The film being so long, I feel like I can see places where we could have like trimmed this thing down a bit, you know? When we watched RRR, we got a comment that said something really interesting, that even though that movie is really long too, they said in India, they have an intermission, right? To give you a break in between. And this movie ain't got no intermission now. Very few people's bladder can hold that long, you know what I'm saying? So the movie's kind of asking you to pause it, which is weird because this is a theater film. So some people probably miss parts of it because they had to leave to go to the bathroom. And so because of that, it's like I have a hard time giving this as high of a score as I think I would have otherwise. It's really daring me to ask, what would you cut? I get it, right? He's got a lot to say, and he says it masterfully. None of this movie is done poorly. But I wish it were shorter so I could tell you that I loved this movie. If this movie was under 2 hours, I would have loved it. But adding in that hour and a half makes me think, why? Why? Now, I wonder how many keyboard warriors will type that we just don't understand the movie, and our main criticism is that it's too long. Saying a movie's long just on its own, you're right, that is kind of shallow. But when it's this long, it's essentially another movie on top of your movie. I feel like you gotta justify that somehow. And I don't think we did. Also, I think what I imagine what really drew Martin Scorsese to this story probably was Robert De Niro's character. Someone says in the film that during that time, you're more likely to be prosecuted for kicking a dog rather than killing a Native American, right? And so I'm like, oh, so that's why Robert De Niro felt like he would never get caught doing this, right? The idea that someone would ever take this case seriously, you know, it was ridiculous. He was like, no one will ever catch me for this. But Jesse Plemons' character from the FBI did. He took things very seriously. And ironically, Robert De Niro's character ended up digging his own grave.
He was like, oh, there is illegal stuff coming down here.
So people do care about y'all? Oh, damn.
I also appreciated about this film when certain characters was talking to each other and they started talking about the Tulsa, Oklahoma bombings.
The subtext of that was no one got in trouble for that, right? They literally bombed out an entire town. Like, if they don't care about that, no one's going to care about me taking out life insurance plans on Native Americans. You know what I'm saying? Like, No one cares. If you ain't white, no one cares.
I did get a 3-hour film that I felt that could have been shorter. I did get a great performance from Lily Gladstone and the best performance from Robert De Niro. So I'm going to give this film a B-.
B-. Yep. I'm giving this one a B. I think everyone here did their job. Martin Scorsese showed us exactly why everyone regards him so highly. This movie was beautifully shot, expertly written, beautifully acted, and yet it never really gelled for me. And I think it's because the subject matter is a little slow. I did enjoy that this movie is based on roughly a true story. And I did enjoy learning about the Osage Native Americans. It's very interesting. There's some very interesting images here where the Native American people are the people with all the money, and then all their servants are white. You know, so I thought that was interesting. I just don't think it's interesting enough to justify this runtime. And to be blunt, I don't know very many things that are interesting enough to justify this runtime.
Would you recommend this film?
No. And that is a shocking thing to say. It's a good film and it is well made, but I don't think it's too long. Like I know it sounds so shallow to say, but I have a hard time saying, spend half your day watching this film.
If you want to go and see this film to support a Martin Scorsese film in theaters, yes. But if you're just like a person that's just a regular moviegoer, just stay at home and watch it on Max. But more importantly, do you recommend this film? Have you seen Killers of the Flower Moon? Please get in the comments and let us know what you thought of it.
I ain't got nothing but regret.
Thank you so much for clicking on this video. We really appreciate you guys getting in the comments, talking to us, all that. You're great people. So if you're new to seeing our face, please hit that subscribe button right at the bottom. Join the family. And if you did like this rating review of this film, please hit that thumbs up. Or you can hit that thumbs down, whichever you choose. It is your opinion. Just remember one thing, it's mostly wrong. See you in another review.